Everybody, well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on another Expert Spotlight Live. I am so stoked. I can't wait to have a chat with the one and only Frank Kern. He's a retired NASA engineer. He's also, I think, a heart surgeon by trade, but he decided that after all these skills, he was going to become a marketer and an entrepreneur and let all of that go and forget all the math. So no, I'm so excited to speak to Frank. Frank, welcome. Thank you very much for taking the time.
You know what's funny is I actually have a client who really is a heart surgeon and a marketing consultant. I'm like, dude, what, seriously? Like, come on, man. And the guy gets up at like 5 o'clock every morning and works out. I'm like, would you shut up and just sit around and be normal, please? So for the record, like, it's pretty obvious.
By the way, the whole like former NASA engineer.
Yeah, well, my official fake title is Dr. Frank Kern, attorney at law, chief engineer at NASA, retired. But that is, in fact, totally fictitious.
But what made you, like, how did you come up with that before? Like, you just were sitting on stage one day, you're like, I'm just going to mess with all these people.
Well, yeah, you know how people always try to make themselves sound really cool?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how can I make fun of that without being too much of a dick about it, you know? But it is kind of funny. It's like, well, I'm this, and like, all right. And so I was like, yeah, I'm Dr. Frank Kern, attorney at law, chief engineer at NASA, retired. It just sounded so funny to me. I think me and like 2 other people on the planet thought that was funny so far, but it's always amused me.
So, somehow it's stuck. Well, Frank, I would love for anyone who doesn't know who you are, everyone in like the funalytics world are, you know, they're internet marketers, they're digital marketers, so most of them know who you are. But I'd love for you to kind of start off with your not so humble bragging rights, you know, like here's the big, bold claim headline of Frank Kern, and then we could kind of take it a step back and let's talk about the journey and the story and the history of, you know, the stuff you've gone through in this world.
Oh man, all right. So my big bold claim would be, I'm Frank Kern and I can and will help you. Oh. And that's about it. And then the subhead would be, you know, this is probably true because I've been doing it since 1999.
Since 1999.
That long, you know, and not be able to help people.
1999. Well, let's go back. 1999. How did you start into internet marketing and building online businesses?
I was a door-to-door credit card machine salesman, and I was a terrible door-to-door credit card machine salesman. And after being rejected for the 9 millionth time, I went back to my little office, which I was renting with another guy. It was like $300 a month, little room, you know, in one of those other buildings that had like other offices and stuff. So to call it an office is kind of embellishing. And I can't remember the search engine. It wasn't Google because it wasn't around, but I typed in how to sell credit card machines on the internet. Because I didn't want to be, you know, rejected all the time in person. It's much easier to be rejected over the internet. And I was looking around or whatever, I can't remember the search results, but on one of the sites I went to, there was a banner ad. And the banner ad said something like, I made a bunch of money selling stuff on the internet and I'll show you how I did it. And so I clicked on it. It took me to a sales letter, long form, for Corey Rudel's marketing something course, you know. It was $297. And I probably read that letter like 50 times over the course of a week and finally had to put in with another dude on buying the course, you know, so I had to split it because I didn't really have that much money. And he took the cassette tapes, it was on, you know, there were still cassette tapes back then. And I took the manuals and read them and was like, holy crap, you know, I think this is a real thing. What do you know? And that was the end of it. Just started trying. Yeah, I did what everybody else does. I started trying a bunch of stuff, and most of it didn't work. And then finally something did.
It's funny you mentioned Corey, and a lot of people don't know the story. I actually didn't either until I spent some time speaking to John Reese, and he kind of explained to me, because I believe he passed away, unfortunately, in a car crash. Is that right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
but he was one of the original, you know, he at the time, it was him, right? He was the guy who knew internet marketing.
It was him. And then there were direct mail students that had taken the direct mail knowledge and applied it to the internet. So guys like Jonathan Mizell, Marlon Sanders, Corey Rudel, Declan Dunn, like all these like really, really pioneer folks back in that day were around.
And what, so you got into this world and you, like most of us who have this epiphany, and it's like, what, this, we can do this, and you can, and then what happened? How did you, what was the first thing you tried to sell online? What was that first thing?
It was, well, it was credit card processing. And I can't remember how I got my first couple of credit card processing customers. I'm totally blanking on how I got them. Probably should have kept on using that methodology. So I bought Corey's thing, and he was talking about like, here's some stuff to do. And I did it, and I got a couple of them. And one of the dudes that became my customer was doing, like, at the time, it seemed to me like it was $1 billion. He's doing 10 grand a month in credit card transactions.
Wow.
And he was selling things online. So I talked to him. I said, dude, what are you selling? What are you doing? He's like, well, I sell this little, this is so embarrassing, man. I sell this little CD-ROM. And it's called the Report Broker something or other. And if somebody buys it, they can resell the CD, or they can print, like, it had like 6,000 reports on it or something, ranging from cooking to, I don't know, neurosurgery or what have you. Yeah. Like if someone buys it, they can resell it. They can sell the reports individually, and it's going pretty good. And then he's like, do you want to sell it too? I'll give you a cut if you do. I said, yeah, man.
So you started with affiliates.
Yeah, I became his affiliate, but he showed me what he was doing, which was spamming. And so I was like, how do you do that? And he's like, well, let me show you. And this was before it was illegal. There's no canned spam or anything like that. It was just heavily frowned upon. You were still an asshole if you did. Yeah. It wasn't like people were like, oh, cool. They're like, God, seriously? But, anyway. So, and dude, I'll tell you, that was really hard. Like, to do that stuff. I don't know how spammers do it, man. It was too much for me. And you've got to be like a real actual rocket science person.
Yeah, it takes a lot of effort. It's like I was saying to you before, like, what we do with direct response marketing and just marketing in general versus like stuff like what my team does when they code, software. And it's like, this is so easy compared to like all of the stuff that you guys end up doing. I'm not really that smart, to get to that level. So
I wasn't either. I was a very bad spammer, but that's what I tried.
And it worked.
It kind of, but what it got me turned on to was the idea of reprint rights. So it turns out that I didn't need to be a reseller for that guy. I could just go to the source and buy the rights to resell that stupid thing. But then I started getting into this idea of like, man, I didn't really know anything. I didn't have anything to sell. So I started buying reprint rights to old direct mail seminars, like direct mail boot camp and some old Bill Myers stuff. That guy was a genius direct response guy. And I bought all the rights to resell these things and listened to the stuff I bought because, cassettes, again, it was all like in the big clamshell case, all that stuff. And I was listening to it and just totally blew my mind, talking about like how to write copy and headlines and all of this stuff. And that environment was so much harder than online because you had to, every piece of mail you sent was maybe 50 cents or something back then. And you had to like get a total stranger to open this damn thing and then, fill something out and mail it back to you. And so it became very fascinating to me. And that's really what I cut my teeth on, was accidentally learning from, what I ended up buying the reprint rights to.
So when did you, and you used to do actual direct mail campaigns with it?
No, I just was like, I'm going to buy the reprint rights to these seminars on how to sell stuff, and then I'm going to try to sell them. So that's what I did. But in having them, I was like, I might as well learn it, and I also want to make sure they were good. And it turns out they were exceptionally good. And, so I would buy that stuff back in a minute if I could find it, like just really, really old recordings that were so brilliant. But I became instantly hooked on it, and started studying Dan Kennedy and Gary Halbert and Bill Myers, and then going all the way back to, Claude Hopkins and, Robert Collier, who I found kind of hard to read, but just that became, within a matter of days, a complete obsession for me. And it's never not been ever since then.
Is that what makes, because actually somebody asked a question before, as I was telling people that I was going to chat with you. He asked, how is it that you've stayed extremely relevant in 1999? I mean, you do realize it's 2019, right? Like it's been 20 years. Yeah, like, and you're still like at the top of your game. You're still, you know, while most people, especially the ones that you kind of mentioned, you know, they're phasing out, or the new generation don't know them, and yet everyone seems. So what is it that has made you stay so relevant for 20 years? Is it your pure passion and love for this world of marketing?
Oh, probably, you know, and I'm real good at it. So it's, you can only, and hey, I know that sounds like lame, but you can't stay in the forefront of something unless you're getting people the results that they come to you for. And that's likely it. As much as I'd like to say, well, it's this little trick, you see, that I learned in hypnosis training. It's like, no, it's just, I work like an animal. And I try to stay on top of everything, because not out of like, oh shit, I don't want to be forgotten or whatever. It's because it's literally all I can think about is marketing and advertising and business. You know, I'm completely obsessed with it, and have been ever since those days when I got those tapes. And, you know, I felt like, what's the movie Mickey Mouse is in it? It's like the mouse is the apprentice to some sorcerer or something, and he finds the magic book, and he's like, holy shit. I felt like that. Like I had been given this, you know, the secret stuff that nobody had. And I was like, holy crap, dude, really? And then that was it, you know, and once you start doing it, if you really like it, then.
Yeah, it's been this, I started my, like, into this world in 2008, similar. I tried to learn how to sell t-shirts online because I didn't know how to sell my t-shirts, and I had boxes of t-shirts in my condo, and I was like, I don't know how to sell these. I've already sold them to my friends and family. So I typed, how do you sell t-shirts online? And same thing. I just kind of dove into this crazy world and never stopped since.
It's so like, funny that it both begins with a search. Like, how do you do that? I don't know. Where could the answers be? I know. Why don't we type in? How do you do that? You know?
It's so true. It's so true. I want to kind of understand the evolution that you've gone through over the last 20 years, and how marketing has changed from the days of, you know, where you had these reprint rights, and to even mass control and launching that. And I'd love to talk about John Reese and the $1 Million Day. He said you were actually like presently with him when that happened, or you were close by or something like that. But like, what have you noticed? What happened back then? First of all, let's talk about that $1 Million Day, because that was like a barrier that broke, where like everyone's like, what, $1 million in a day? Like, yeah. Right now, me telling my parents that I made like 200 grand in a day, they're like, that's not possible. That's not real. So $1 million in a day. What was it like back then? What happened?
It was harder. You know, it was when I was your age, we had to walk to school both ways in the snow uphill. You know, well, first of all, can take absolutely no credit for any of the $1 Million Day stuff. I was in Australia and landed while he was wrapping it up. And I'm like, dude, how'd it go? And he's like, you know, we're at $992,000 or whatever. That was all John. And he had a guy, a friend of his named Mike Long, that was also with him and like kind of helping him out or something along with that. But I did absolutely nothing. So I would love to like retroactively be like, yeah, dude, it was really cool. But I didn't do anything. I don't know. You know, it was like, I mean, here's the magic formula to all that stuff back in the day is a bunch of people, or not a bunch, like, you know, John, in this particular case, got very, very good at something. There was a demand for a certain skill set, which he had, which was traffic. And he wrote some very good copy and put forth a tremendous amount of energy telling people about that product and its availability. And as much as it would be cool to make it sound like there was some kind of magic to it, and maybe he would give you a better description of it, because again, I wasn't there. But I think it really comes down to the fact that this is a guy who had been doing that sort of thing, like writing copy, selling stuff online forever, and worked really, really, really hard, and it paid off. Like, I don't know if John told you his whole story, but there was a time when he was hospitalized for working himself into a state of like very, very bad health, not mental health, like literally almost killed himself from working. So it's like, the secret always comes back to output. You know, a tremendous amount of effort was put into making that happen, and it happened as a result.
And what about when you decided to launch and like go down the information marketing road and like with Mass Control? And was Mass Control your first big project?
Yeah, well, I would say it was my first hit, if you want to call them that. And that was, I wouldn't say it was an accident. It was a byproduct. So prior to that, well, in 2003, I was sued by the Federal Trade Commission for doing dumb, spammy shit, which the worst part of that whole story is I did not know there was such a thing as the Federal Trade Commission until they sued me. So that's like the most embarrassing part of it. Like getting sued is bad enough, but being dumb enough to not even know they exist, it's like, yeah, anyway, so like after all that, I started selling dog training materials through PPC.
Okay.
Google AdWords and stuff. And I invented this methodology called serialization, which was really freaking cool, actually. You could take any market that had a bunch of submarkets. So for example, dogs have a bunch of submarkets, which are dog breeds. And I had this whole thing built where I would take a list of all dog breeds, and it would get every keyword related to that dog breed and upload it into its own Google AdWords campaign that would then send people to a dynamically created opt-in page and sales page, and all was created on the fly based on the dog breed, which was all like instantly built with the software stuff. So it was like I had 600 something websites overnight, and that worked really, really well. And I decided to finally teach how I did that. And this is in maybe 2005. And I had a real small list of marketing people at the time because I wasn't out like publicly being, hey, I'm a marketing guy. I was like, in fact, I sold the dog stuff under a different name just so nobody would copy me, And so finally I'm like, hey, I built this thing that's cool, and I'll teach a seminar on how I did it, and it'll be 10 grand. And I don't know, I was just kind of pulling the price point out of my butt. Long story short, I sold $1 million of that seminar, and it's like, holy crap. So I was like, maybe I should teach this stuff. And everybody was happy and all of that. So did that, then moved to California from Georgia, which is where I'm originally from. And by sheer random happenstance, become friends with Neil Strauss, a guy who wrote this best-selling book, Dating Advice, and said, hey, I think I might be able to help you sell a lot of a dating advice course for dudes. You want to try it? And he was like, sure. So my cousin Trey and I wrote all the copy for that, except for the sales letter itself, which was written by a guy named Harlan Kilstein. We did all the emails and the pre-launch stuff for Neil. And that worked, which is funny because neither one of us we would have no idea how to
how to pick up girls.
Yeah, but he was very good at it, but anyway, that sold a lot. I think it was like $1 million something in 4 hours or something crazy. And so that happens. And then I'm like, all right, man, I just want to chill out for a little while because I just moved to California, just discovered surfing. I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm going to relax. I'm trying to be like a beach guy here. And,
you're killing my vibe.
I'm just like, all right, And so my friend Mike Long, the same guy that had helped John Reese, gets in contact with me, and he's like, hey, Andy Jenkins and his partner Brad Fallon want you to help them launch this thing that they're going to do called StomperNet. And I was like, I didn't want to do it because I thought they were friends. This is how immature I was, and to a degree still am. I thought they were friends with a dude that I didn't like. So I was like, I don't want to work with them because I think they're friends with this guy that I don't like, and I'm like, 15. So tell them I'll do it for 25 grand because I never met these dudes. So I'm thinking they would say no, but I was too passive aggressive to say I'm not interested. So I was like, tell them I'll do it for 25 grand, hoping they would say, forget you, And they're like, okay. So I'm like, God, really? Fuck.
Damn.
So now I got to do all that, And it wasn't just me by any means that helped on that promotion. It's me and Mike, and Andy Jenkins is absolutely no slouch when it comes to marketing. We got a lot of advice from John. But anyway, it was like a bunch of fellas worked together to try to make that thing work. And it ended up doing, I don't know what they collected, so it was like a year-long thing for $800 a month or something like that. I'm going by memory, It was something like $18 million in gross sales. And it's like, you've got really? It's like, holy shit, So that thing worked. And then once that worked, I was like, maybe I should teach the psychology behind what I'm doing and everything. And now to finally answer the question, that's how Mass Control got created. Because I was like, hell, I guess I have something to say, and I think I'll say it, and I think I'll teach what I'm doing here. And I did, and it worked pretty good.
My mind's kind of going in a couple different places here, but I want to talk about very quickly. I want to get your understanding. I want to understand how your mind works when it comes to copy, when it comes to diving into the mind of this ideal customer. Because like you said, you knew nothing about the dating niche. You didn't like, that wasn't your world or necessarily. And so how are you so good at writing copy? What is the thought process? What is the methodology that you go through to make sure that, like, if I write this piece of copy, it's going to hit that person's psyche?
I don't really know, but I want to address that dating thing. I think the copy we wrote was horrible. And I think Neil would tell you, he was like, I would never say this idiotic crap in a million years, but you know what? We're on this deadline and you guys are supposed to know what you're talking about. Let's see what happens. So I think it would have sold anyway, because he was in such high demand and he was so very, very good. So I'd love to be like, well, it's because of this thing. So my approach to copy is this. Let's say you're like, hey man, will you please write a sales letter for XYZ? And for whatever reason, I agree to do it. And my process would be to think about complaining about it for like a week, like mentally languish and just for a week, and then literally complain about the fact that I have to do it for another week until like 48 hours before I had to have the thing done. And then I would write it. And so that really is the process, and the reason I'm telling you that instead of trying to come up with some like really cool thing is because there is no way to get good at writing other than to simply write. So I try to think about what's the most important thing that this, whatever it is, let's say it's a book or whatever, what's the most important thing this book is going to help somebody with? And then I'll look at it and be like, here's how it's going to help you, A, B, C, D, E, F, et cetera, and here's why you should get it. And it's very, very formulaic. So I'm not doing anything that's new, I'm just sitting down and I'm writing the stuff, and a lot of stuff doesn't work. So, and I don't worry about it, so it's not necessarily the quality of the copy. It's just the fact that I'll just sit down and write the damn thing, of course, after complaining about it forever, and put it out into the marketplace and see what happens. And, it tends to work pretty good. Sometimes it doesn't, and I'll change it and then it will. And that's what everybody sees, is the stuff that's the control. They don't see the, 3 other versions that it took to finally get the damn thing to work. So there's this illusion that, oh man, right, just sits down and writes out amazing guy. Like, no, man, it's like anybody else, like Dwayne Johnson doesn't just wake up looking like that. I mean, the guy spends however many hours a day in the gym every freaking day. Yeah. So I do the same thing, but clearly not in the gym, but with the whole marketing stuff,
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you mentioned, that too many people think that there's this magic formula, and it's like, okay, you get the perfect script, and like, I love Russell Brunson. I've learned so much from guys like him, but it's like, okay, here's the perfect webinar, and then here's the perfect webinar formula, and it's like, just follow this and you'll now be able to sell your $2,000 whatever offer consistent. And it's like, well, no, it doesn't really work like that. Like, you can't, the formula works, but it's not, doesn't mean the first time you do it, it's going to work. Like, you've got to test again and keep going down that path.
Yeah, we have a professional term in my company for something that works the first time, and we call it a fucking miracle. We're like, oh my God, dude, really? That worked? Like, I can never believe it when something works the first time. I'm like, holy crap, seriously, it worked? Thank God, I really didn't want to write that again.
I love, basically, you're still the same lazy surfer dude that moved to San Diego, but you've just, because like you keep procrastinating, and it's like, all right, I got 48 hours. Let me just write this thing. I don't really want.
What's really happening during that procrastination period is I'm thinking about it. Okay. Because I'm like, I literally have like something called over-focused ADD. There's like 5 kinds of ADD or something, and over-focused is where you just obsessively loop on a thought pattern. So I will obsessively loop about the copy, and just like, but during that, I'm mad because I got to write it, because I hate writing. It's never fun. I don't know anyone that's like, oh boy, let's write some copy. This will be fun. So I'm mad about it and I'm complaining about it, but I am obsessively, all right, what's the coolest thing about this thing? How do I say it? And 99.9% of the time, it follows this magic formula, which is, here's what I got. Here's what it'll do for you. Here's what I want you to do next. And that's kind of Like if you go and read letters of mine, you'll literally see big subheads that say, here's what to do next. It's like very, very formulaic in that regard. And I'm finding now that like very blunt, simple, it's better, such as read this if you want to scale your company, and that's the headline, as opposed to, the incredible story of how, a brain damaged redneck grew, blah, blah, blah. It's more just, here you go. And that's working pretty good, but that might just be a factor or a function of me not wanting to write anything fancy. I don't.
Well, it could be that. It also could be very much that, the market is evolving. I mean, the internet is not the same, although direct response and human psychology is still the same. Do you think that people are starting to get more familiar or more aware of marketing strategies like these headlines of X, lose 30 pounds in 20 days, blah, 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 versus, do you find that?
I think that if you're a marketing person, then yeah, you're going to be like, but probably that sort of stuff is always going to work. I've always been afraid of it because of the claims, like unless the average person who gets the thing is going to lose 25 pounds in 30 days, you just can't say that. Yeah. So, yeah. So this, like, yeah, you got to it's just, there are rules and stuff, and it's real helpful to the bottom line and longevity of one's career to learn them and obey them. So, yeah, I think that stuff's going to work probably forever. It's will likely not be deployed forever because eventually, those folks in Washington are going to have just about enough of that crap. It happens, about every couple of years, there's an industry that they'll have just about enough of, and they'll come kick the crap out of people in that industry, and then things will pipe down and they'll move on to another one. But in terms of the public being blind to marketing, I don't think so. What I do think they are, however, is very surprised and refreshed when they have marketing that's also beneficial to them while selling them. And so I think if you do that and focus on, okay, how can I make this process by which I'm acquiring a customer beneficial to the end user, regardless of whether or not they buy something, that's where you get the magic. Because that's something that they're not, exposed to, and nobody does it. And that's how you get like really, really good brand positioning,
Interesting. You mentioned, you just mentioned around how with your dog site, and you use kind of this dynamic, landing pages and all this stuff. Was that basically the start of, what you talk about with behavioral dynamic response and marketing? Is that how is that the evolution of it since, those 2005 all the way through, and now what you kind of really focus on?
No, man, I wish I knew then what I know now, because then it mattered, because email was really, really strong back then. But that was just niche marketing. It was just a way to expand into a market really fast. So instead of, first of all, I had a product that was truly one size fits all. Positive reinforcement obedience training for dogs. So I could go and say, here's how to train your Dachshund, and buy this thing. I could do it in good conscience because it's going to work just as well on a Dachshund as it would on a Labrador or whatever. Dog's dog. Not a dork out on dog stuff, but in the terms of basic obedience, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be, it's going to work. So all that thing was a way to completely take over a niche, like by pressing a button and uploading on pages and stuff, without having to rewrite 600 something sales letters. One version would say Labrador, the other would say Dachshund, and that was it. And there was no cool behavioral stuff that happened if they opted in. Behavioral dynamic response came from, when we got the ability to track someone's behavior in a funnel, like whether they opened an email, clicked on it, watched a video for 20 minutes or whatever, and respond accordingly. That's what behavioral dynamic response is and was born from. The need to be able to hit someone at the perfect time and really stand out from the crowd based on recency and personalization of interest. That's what the name implies. You respond dynamically based on the user's behavior.
So, there's this, I guess there's this kind of black and white, or not really, but just yin and yang. There's this idea and concept of complex funnels, right? Like kind of you're talking about with behavior and I open this, therefore I'm added to this bucket, and now this sequence starts and all of this crazy stuff that I draw on my walls, versus keeping it like hyper simple, right? And a lot of times you'll hear a lot of people who say like, look, if you're really just getting off the ground, just keep it super simple. But then there are people like you who have kind of mastered the simple, and then now the intricate helps you optimize or grow bigger. What is the difference? How do you kind of look at both?
You keep it simple. Yeah. And we keep it simple now. So I don't do really like 1/20th of what I used to with behavioral dynamic stuff, because email as a medium, as a primary marketing channel, is no longer as powerful as it was. So all our funnels are super simple. Like, kernclass.com you don't have to opt in for it. There's a video there, and if you go to order and you don't order, then someone will call you and say, hey, you got any questions? And that's like our whole funnel. So there's like nothing. My private client thing, people apply for that. I look at it, I'm like, okay, I want to take this person, and then we email and say, all right, you want to set up an appointment? And that's like the whole thing. So I have really stripped a lot of that stuff out of my own marketing, not because philosophically it didn't work, it's because the tool that it uses, email, is going away, which is unfortunate. I mean, I hate it that it is. So I've just found other ways to make stuff work,
Interesting. You think email is going away. Where is it going, and what's replacing it?
Yeah, so it is, the key word here is primary marketing channel, by the way, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, not like people are going to stop using email, but in the internet marketing world, we've all thought like build a big list and sell them stuff. Man, that was amazing for a long time. But if you look at today, for anyone who's watching this, you've been doing email stuff for a while, like compare your opens and clicks this month versus 12 months from now or 12 months ago versus 24 months ago. And you'll just see it's going down. Then the reason why is the average person's getting, according to the all-knowing is getting like 140 emails a day. That didn't used to happen. And now we have GDPR, which is, you can't email anyone in Europe or else they'll kill you. And Canada has that same like kind of thing now. Gmail's got the promotions tab. They also have the thing where it's like, hey, you didn't open this guy's stuff, last 5 messages or whatever, you want to just unsubscribe. And all of that regulatory stuff is coming here, by the way. And I know this to be the case because I sat about 15 feet away from FTC guys at a conference I was in DC last summer. And they're like, yeah, we're probably going to do it too because of consumer demand. So that's why email is declining. It's a saturated medium. It's being regulated out of existence. And the very providers of email tools that consumers use to read emails are filtering out marketing stuff deliberately. So what can you do? That is what it is. And we could either say, oh, damn it, which I say that a lot, or we could like figure out what else to do. And the other thing to do is understand that it has been replaced with something infinitely more powerful, which is social media. And by social media, I mean all channels, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, podcasting, LinkedIn, like all of that stuff crushes email in terms of what you can do and the attention you can get and the goodwill that you can build with the market and the pre-selling, which if you now circle back is why you don't really need all the complex stuff in your funnel, because if you do it right, they're pre-sold before they get into your funnel.
Yeah, that makes it very simple, right? They come into your funnel pre-framed and they know what they want and it's done. They either get on the phone with you or buy or don't. It's easy. So let's talk about social media. If that is, next 2 years, and I assume that's where you're kind of headed or your mindset is when it comes to what are the trends in the next 2 years. How have you started leveraging social media? How do you use it for somebody who's, typically, writes copy and focuses on copy, and although you use all of that psychology in your social media, what have you enjoyed the most about social media? Do you like getting on camera? Are you the type of person who does like making videos?
Oh yeah, I'd way rather do that than write. It's easy.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's just turn on the phone, start yapping, and that's way better to me than like looking at the stupid blank page like a term paper. Like, okay. geez, So the thing about social is, number one, I'm real late to the game in this. Like, if I had a time machine, I always joke, like, I would say, man, if I had a time machine, I would go back and buy like a bunch of Apple and Microsoft stock and stuff, and immediately after that, get on social. Get on social. Because it's like I have left so many millions of dollars on the table by not messing with it. I used to think it was stupid. Like, there's footage of me like saying, "Hey, get off social media. You're not a freaking Kardashian." And it was just, I was completely wrong. Just missed the boat entirely, kind of. All right. So I definitely use it differently than how a typical social media person might think of it. So I'm on every day. And the thing I like about it, I think I already said this, thing I like about it is the money. But I'm on every single day, and every day I make an offer. But I do it in a way that is dramatically different. So if you compare how I approach it to the average person would be like, here's me with a puppy. And there's like nothing, right? And, what I'll do is I'll say, hey, if you want to accomplish this thing, here's like one thing that's really, really helpful, and I'll teach some cool stuff, and I'll say, and if you're really serious about that, then you might like my book, or you might like my class at kernclass.com or whatever. And I do that a lot. Like, I've already done it twice today, and then we're constantly pushing that offer out there. But we take that offer that I'm making every day, and I wrap content and value around it. So we have this opportunity now where you can directly help and sell somebody simultaneously, and we can do it cheaper and in greater volume than ever before in history. So it's like kind of a big deal,
It's so funny. Now that you mentioned that, man, I gotta go make some videos, but the procrastination is like, I don't want to do it. But it's funny because a lot of times people tend to, you have to, you should, and it's like it's there, and it's like, but I've learned all of this stuff around funnels, and like, can't I just spend $1 on advertising and just make my funnel convert and just keep doing that forever, as opposed to continuously putting myself out there and creating content and always going down that road. And what do you say to somebody who thinks like that, AKA me?
I would say, if you want to make less money, then yes, you can. And like all decisions I make in this kind of stuff are based on math, by the way. So it's like, I'm cold as they get when it comes to these things. Like, it either makes money or it doesn't. If it doesn't, I'm either going to do it because I like it anyway, but knowing that it's not producing revenue, or I'm not going to mess with it. And so I went into social media like very, very reluctantly, and in December, so I just started using it like hardcore, like properly in December of 2018. So when I say I'm late to the game, I'm like, dude, I'm late.
Okay, like you spent 45 days.
Yeah, like really late to the game. And so I was like, I want to see if this really works, So I bought domains that were only to be used for organic social media. And I hooked them up to funnels where it was selling a product ID. They're the only possible way that particular product ID would be sold is if it came from that funnel. So there's like no guesswork in the tracking, because I'm kind of like OCD about that, And I went on and I started promoting my book, and at frankkernbook.com. So like, use a really easy to remember domain. I'm like making posts. I'm saying, hey, if you want to make campaigns, blah, 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 blah. And like the second day of doing it, I think that funnel did a couple grand. I'm like, what? And then I did it every day from December 1st through the December 23rd. And I can't remember the amount of money. It's like 50 grand or something. Like,
wow.
Yeah. And then I started teaching the class. And since then, like, I don't know the total actually. You know what? No, I don't. Shit. I know the total for the last 2 weeks, though. Hang on, let's see. In the last 2 weeks, we did $340,974 from organic social media posts.
Wow. And you started in December.
Started in December, but again, I'm doing it like differently, So I've called the strategy intent-based branding, and which is real weird for me, a direct response guy even use the word branding, but it's got branding elements in there. So, gotta have to tell it like it is. Yep. So there's 3 pillars to the approach. So pillar number 1 is you put out a lot of content, and every piece of content is 3 things. Number 1, it deliberately provides that value, like, hey man, here's how to do this thing that's important to you. Here's how to get that. So that's thing number 1. Thing number 2, you're always nurturing goodwill with your market, AKA like building that trust, not by saying, I got to cool skull on my shirt, or I'm like you or whatever, but like by actually helping them, you know. And then thing number three, you make an offer. So if you think about it, like most people have an email funnel or whatever, and they'll make an offer like twice a week in their email funnel. Well, dude, I'm doing it several times a day. So that's pillar number one. And then the second pillar is this thing that, hot damn, the stuff that you make today and post on social media will continue working for you. You know, and I just checked analytics before we got on. I haven't promoted Frank Kern book in like 2 weeks. I've been promoting my class. And I just looked, and we got 83 book buyers over the past 6 days from type-in traffic, not even clicks, people hearing that domain name, either in a video or whatever, and literally going and typing in frankkernbook.com and buying the book. So that's pillar number two, which is the content you make. You got to shift mentally from going, oh, I got to make this content every day or else everything's going to die, is no, every piece of content I make is something that can continue to work for me if I do it right. And there's a methodology we use to repost it and all this stuff. And then the third pillar of that is paid advertising, which is you take the stuff that worked, like, okay, this video worked really, really well organically. Let me start boosting it as an ad and see what happens. And the other side of that is I built up this audience of people who've watched my stuff. Let me start advertising to that audience, you know? And so there's a hybrid, you know, to the paid traffic thing. But it's just way more net, you know, and it's a lot less risk. And you, like, I'm telling you, people do it and you blow up. People see you all over the place. You take over, you know, and pretty good.
It's time to go create some content.
Yeah, get in there, dude.
Pretty simple. Okay, I'm fine. It's done. I'm going to start right now. I got a couple questions, and really, before we actually started our conversation, I was going to ask you a pretty stupid question, but and you kind of shut it down pretty quickly around the simplest and most profitable business model, and you're like, I know exactly what I'm going to say, is that you're dumb for even thinking that thing.
I just said I'm not going to give a very nice answer. You know?
No, but what I kind of mean to ask with that is it should be rephrased as more of over the years you've gone and done a bunch of different business models. You've sold information, you've sold consulting services, you've done one-on-one, you've done seminars, you've done this. Like, what is the hybrid or the combination that you feel is as an entrepreneur? I mean, again, you can sell software. I sell software, and that's a great business model. And they're all businesses, and they all will kick you in the ass. And as long as you're willing to take the punch and work hard, cool. They all work. But what's your preferred business model? Let's put it that way. What is Frank's preferred business model?
Oh, I like selling training. I like selling information where my time can be leveraged, and it doesn't matter what the thing is. I like any business model that will afford me to spend the majority of my time focused on promotion and creation, as opposed to, I don't know, putting out fires or something like that. So for me, because I've been teaching for 20 years almost now, it's teaching stuff. But in like a modulated style class, where I have a lot of students and they can come through. And if I talk to them, I'm talking to them in group and not on the phone all day or whatever. But it's not because it's like, oh, I hate being on the phone all day. It's because I really like to create, I really enjoy that content creation. I really do like to shoot videos and like study this stuff and come up with new things and help the market in advance of getting the money and all of that. And they're all hard, by the way, so it's like, if anyone were saying, well, dude, what should I do? Because I think that's really kind of that question kind of translates into what's the right model for me? Like someone would, if they were asking me that, that's likely what they're trying to get to, and, or what can I do that's the least risky? It's going to be the least amount of unpleasantry and risk for me. And so to choose what's right for you is always going to be personal preference. Like whatever you want to do is what's right for you. You only live once, and then the model that is going to be the least risky in terms of like unpleasantry and financially would be the simplest. So let's say someone's like, I have a course that I want to sell and I've never sold anything before. What do I do? My advice to them wouldn't be to go out and build like some elaborate funnel with a sales letter. It would be to put out content and say, hey, if you're interested in taking this course, type course in the comments and I'll DM you and we can set up a time to talk about it. And then you like talk to them. All right, yeah, here's what's in it. You want it? And they say yes or no. Then if they say yes enough, and you're like, okay, maybe I'll do something to replace this time that I'm having to spend talking to people on the phone. pre-sell people, and then maybe you would make a video or something like that.
Do you recommend the same thing for people who sell services?
Yeah.
Do the same process. It's like you help them, you do it with them or do it for them a few times until you get it to a system, and then you remove yourself from actually doing it for them.
Only if the personal preference of that individual is to not do it for them. It just really depends. Like some people might really, really like going in there and writing the code and stuff, and all of that. And some might be like me, where like, I like doing that, is pretty cool, but what I really like is creating and promoting and everything. So again, it goes totally to the personal preference of the individual.
Yeah, no, that makes, it makes total sense. There is no real right or wrong answer. If you're an entrepreneur, you kind of know that this is the game you play. This is what we're doing. So
yeah, you have to accept that like there is no done, right? So this like none of us are ever going to get to a finish line with this game. It just ain't going to happen. So like if you can get that out of your head, like, oh man, if I could only just do this, then I'd be done. You're not going to be done. You're going to hit the goal and be like, damn, all right, well now I kind of, my lifestyle has come right up to where this goal is. Now what? I want bigger. And so it's always going to be more, so it just, if you accept that, that's going to save you a lot of hassle. And then if you just realize that, man, I can literally, whatever I want the model to be, I can build it. Just figure out what you want to do. It's like, if you want to be on the phone, and be on the phone. If you want to make courses and stuff, make courses and stuff. There is one caveat and that is that the methodology by which you sell the stuff, whether it's t-shirts or whatever, largely will depend on your skill set. Yeah. So if you're not like a good copywriter, for example, you probably wouldn't want to try to drive them to a long form sales letter with a complex email funnel, because writing's not good. Yeah. If you're really good at, presentations, you might drive them to a video because that's you giving a presentation. And if you're not good at that stuff, you might drive them to a phone call where you're like, yeah, man. So anyway, what are you looking to accomplish by buying the Rototiller 2000 or whatever it is, and sell it that way? So I don't mean to be ambiguous by the answer, but I really don't want to, commit malpractice here and give it like bad advice.
No, I think it's more than, this is the perfect advice, to be honest, because it's, first of all, you have to enjoy what you do. You're in this for the long run. If you're a true entrepreneur, if you're in this game to like, because you were sold on the idea of, make money from a beach, which is, stupid, because who works in the middle of the beach with sand anyways? But if that's the mindset that you've got, building a business is not for you. It's not what you should be doing with your time, because that's not the reality of it at the end of the day.
Well, here's what will happen, right? So you can get to the sit around at the beach all day level. It took me about 10 years. So right after mass control and all that stuff, I mean, it was so much money came in so fast. I didn't have to do anything. I sat around I literally lived on the beach and sat around on the beach, surfed all the time. And that was super fun. And then it started getting boring. And then I was like, well, I don't want to work anymore, because I've sold myself on this dream of not doing anything. So instead I just smoked weed all day and drank beer all day and played Xbox. After about 2 years, I was pretty much a vegetable and was like, all right, this has really sucks. And then you go back to work. So you might as well just be like, okay, if you've got the entrepreneurial gene, it's not going to turn off.
Yeah.
Don't worry about going to the beach all day. You're not going to want, I'm telling you, you're not going to like it. You know what I mean? It sucks after like a couple of weeks. You're like, there's nothing to hit refresh on at the beach, like, what are you going to do? No stats to check. So don't bother with it. Just stay in the game and keep working.
So look, I'm conscious of your time, Frank, and I thank you so much for being so generous. We've got about 120 people or so who are watching us live right now, and hey, it's been going up the whole time. So that's really exciting. Number one, first and foremost, everyone watching, go to frankkernbook.com, get yourself a copy of that book, because I want 120 people who are watching right now, so that when you check tomorrow, I want to see an extra 120 from me, from your organic content that you just created with me.
That's great. Hey, can I give a different URL?
Sure.
Yeah, you don't have to buy anything. Go to kernclass.com, and there's just a video on the page, beautifully built web page. But there's a video. You don't need your email address or anything, and there's a 20-something minute walkthrough of how that social media marketing that we're doing, how it works, how I do it, how I repurpose the content, what do you say? And you might get some ideas from it. And if you do, test it. And if you want to take the class, then take it. But regardless of whether or not you take the class, that video will definitely help you all out.
Amazing. I'm going to go check out because I need to start creating some videos. So Frank, one last question for me, and then any parting words from you. So my question for you is, what's your vision? Where are you? Because obviously, yeah, you enjoy making money and you enjoy helping people, but is there a secret mastermind idea in the back of Frank's head that he doesn't share with anybody about, like, world domination or anything like that? What's your vision?
It's the opposite of that. It's funny. Yeah. So here's what I know from experience, that there is no domination without contribution. So as an entrepreneur, we are in the game of contribution. Like, we are paid. This is like the greatest and most level playing field ever, is an entrepreneurial level playing field, especially today online. So we are compensated directly for the amount of value that we produce in the world. Yep. And that's just how it is. So my master plan is to outvalue everybody. Nice. And just, I really want to change the way marketing is done and make it, where no longer are advertisers and marketers viewed as less trustworthy than politicians, which actually is true, by the way. Adweek did a survey, and like, we are the bottom of the barrel in terms of the way society views people. We're lower than politicians. We're lower than Wall Street. Like, we're horrible compared to that. And I want to be of so much service in marketing and influence other marketers to have the marketing in and of itself do so much good in the world that A, changes the world's perception of what we do, and B, actually positively impacts the entire planet. And I think in doing so, the domination stuff I really don't care, because I don't care if people make more money than me. I'll have plenty by way of that occurring. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. What the URLs again?
Kern Class. Yeah, kernclass.com.
Kernclass.com.
If you make your websites real easy to remember, you'll get a lot of traffic if you keep doing that branding stuff. I tell you, because we still get the second highest traffic source for me is type in, where people just remember the domain and go.
Kernclass.com makes it easy. Frank, thank you so much for taking the time. I really enjoyed this conversation, going down memory lane, and also just your insights and wisdom and those pillars of all of it. Really cool. Now I got to go and make some content and create some videos. So
yeah, man, every day. Go watch that class. It'll show you what to do. I'm telling you, it's working. It's crazy.
I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it right now.
Stupid because it's working. So all these years, I'm like, social media is dumb. Not so dumb. I was dumb. Social media
was right.
Damn it.
I thought I could just spend $1 and you just, no, I'm excited. I'm going to go watch it right now. Thank you very much. Everybody watching, go to kernclass.com. Thank you so much for taking the time, my friend. And yeah, I appreciate you very much.
All right, y'all keep up the good work. Do I need to press anything, or do we just get off camera?
I think it just goes. I think as soon as I hit end meeting, we peace out. So peace.
All right, dude. See you, man.
Take care. Bye.